Time is precious. Life is not just the passing of time. Life is not just the passing of time. Life is a collection of experiences, their frequency and their intensity. Life is not just watching the clock tick away. Life is a collection of experiences, their intensity, their frequency. When my friend Mark died at age 44, someone says, that's young to die. But what if he lived 4 lifetimes in one? It might not be too young. Whatever the span of your life turns out to be, here's what you want to fill it up with: experiences and the intensity of those experiences. But now let's talk about the management of time. Now, jot this down: approaches to the management of time. Here's the first one: ignore the subject. I mean, that's good advice. Don't let anything overly bug you. Because remember now, you don't have to do anything. Someone says, well, I got to get a handle on my time. The answer is no, you don't. If you want to let it all go, you can let it all go. I mean, this is good advice. Somebody says, you ought, you ought, you ought. Jot this down. Ignore all the you oughts or you should. Only if they're giving general information. We should. It's better to say, if you're teaching, we should. Not you should, we should. Then you let me listen in without it being too confrontational. If everyone did this, see, that'd be great. And then you give a person a chance to choose to do it or not to do it. But when you start the you ought, now see, if I don't, now see, we got some tension and maybe some problems. So you oughts seem to always create problems. Because this is personal dignity. And you don't want to destroy someone's dignity by doing all the oughts and then they feel reluctant to do it. Now we've got problems. So if you want to, just ignore this subject on time management. Now here's the next one. Step down to something easier. The guy's in sales and he says, oh, I want to own the company. Finally owns the company. Now he's got no time to play golf. He said, when I was in sales, I was making big money playing golf 3 days a week. Heck with this owning something. Heck with managing. My life was never my own after I started to manage. I'm going back to sales. See, this is the key. If you're getting too pressed, you might consider stepping down to something with a little easier time pressure. Little girl says to her mother, Daddy comes home, brings his briefcase and pats me on the head and says hello, disappears and works on his papers. How come my daddy doesn't play with me? And her mother said, look, your daddy loves you very much, but he's so busy at work, he can't get it all done, he has to bring it home. He loves you, but that's why he can't play with you. And the little girl said, why don't they just put him in a slower group? So, jot this down now. If you don't have time for your kids, you might consider joining a slower group. Remember when I said some things I went for cost me too much? So reconsider. Next key to time management, and that's work longer and harder. But see, there's a limit to that. I almost lost my health the first year. I went so crazy about personal development and achievement. I just went bonkers. You know, I told you I was skinny, but at the end of that first year, I was a walking shadow. And then it suddenly occurred to me, what if I got rich and too ill to spend it? I mean, that was a shocker. So I started developing a little more reasonable. Because I said, if 12 hours won't do it, I'll work 14. If that won't do it, I'll work 18. I mean, how many hours it takes. And sure enough, it cost me too much. So see, working longer and harder for some might be appropriate. You know, if you're just sitting around not doing that much, this might be good, work longer and harder. But you can only work so hard. Here's the key, not to work harder, but smarter. When you've worked as hard as you can, doing the best you can in terms of physical output in the time, reasonable time. Now here's the ultimate in the management of time, and that is you simply become more skillful. When I first got into sales, you know, I was around people that could get, 9 out of 10, 8 out of 10. And when I first started, I could only get 1 out of 10. But here's what I did. I worked around the clock, so that I would make up in numbers what I lacked in skill. That's good in sales. You got to jot that down. When you're new, you make up in numbers what you lack in skill. Now, when you become more skillful, the numbers can go down because now your persuasive ability, and all of that is now so high that you don't need to put as many numbers out. But at first, if you want to compete or if you want to really get good, you've got to put in the numbers. But if you get more from yourself, develop more of yourself, now the time management becomes an easier task.
If you want to manage your time well, begin by identifying your goals and making detailed plans for their accomplishment. We said a little bit earlier, under the principle of purpose, that you must have clear goals in order to focus your energies and concentrate your talents. And you must have detailed plans in order to work step by step, accomplishing the activities that take you to your goal. The next step is to set priorities on your activities. Use the 80-20 rule, the Pareto principle that we talked about earlier, that 80% of the value of what you do comes from 20% of what you do. That any list of 10 things that you have to accomplish to achieve a goal, 2 of those 10 things will be worth more than all the others put together. Always pick the most valuable use of your time. Always ask yourself, what is the most valuable use of my time right now? This is the key question for time management. This is the question that you must ask and answer over and over again, day after day, week after week. What is the most valuable use of your time right now? What is the most valuable use of your time right now? And always stay with the task that is the most valuable use of your time, because anything other than the most valuable use of your time is, relatively speaking, a waste of your time and a waste of your life. There's always enough time to do the important things, although there is never enough time to do everything that needs to be done. So focus on those few areas where excellent performance can make an extraordinary difference. Focus on the vital few versus the trivial many. Focus where you can really make a difference with your efforts. Focus on your areas of greatest personal strengths. One of the qualities of all leaders is that they pick the areas of greatest personal strength, and they only take jobs and accept responsibilities where they have the ability and the interest to do an outstanding job. So focus on those areas where you have unique strengths and abilities and delegate everything else to others. Do more of the things that you're better at. Always focus on strengths. Focus on the strengths in the situation, the strengths in other people, the strengths within your own talents and abilities. Concentrate your resources on the key areas where outstanding results are possible. Continually refer back to the 80-20 rule. What is the most valuable use of my time? What are my key result areas? What are my vital output areas? Always focus your talents where you can make a difference. Concentrate always on results, not activities. All peak performers are results-oriented. Ask yourself, why am I on the payroll? What specific measurable results are expected of me? What specific measurable results are expected of me? Ask yourself, what one thing could I do that if I did really well would be more important to my career than everything else put together? And then focus single-mindedly on doing that one thing. Never do things of secondary importance while there are things of primary importance left undone. Remember, effective people do first things first, and they do things one at a time. Now, it's interesting. One of the major reasons for failure in life is that people do not discipline themselves to do what is most important and to do one thing at a time. So they try to do several things at once. They do nothing to any degree of quality, and they very seldom finish. Once you have selected your highest payoff activity, begin it immediately and stay with it until it is 100% complete. What we find is that if you pick up a task and put it down without finishing it, and then come back and pick it up and put it down without finishing it, come back and pick it up, and so on, that you can spend 500% of the time necessary on any task by continually coming back and picking it up and beginning again. Because each time you pick it up, you have to review and find out where you were when you left it. So stay with your tasks till they're 100% complete. Not 95%, not 98%, but 100% complete. Test yourself, challenge yourself to stay at it until it's finished completely. A major demotivator and time waster is coming back and picking up that task over and over. So discipline yourself to work with single-minded concentration on those key tasks that can really make a difference. Alec McKenzie recommends the policy of single handling, which means that once you pick up any task, stay with it till it's finished. Organize your tasks, put them in order of priority, and then once you've picked up a piece of stationery or piece of correspondence, a letter, or any task at all, stay with it until it's done. The inability to concentrate on important tasks is a major reason for failure, because all important tasks are difficult, and all unimportant tasks tend to be easy. So be very alert. A recent time management exercise that I heard about, the instructor had everybody in the room list on two sides of a piece of paper. On the right-hand side of a piece of paper with a line down the center, List all of the things that are very hard to do in their work. On the other side of the paper, write all of the things that are fun to do. And then he asked each person in the group, which list contains the items, the accomplishment of which would make the greatest amount of progress in the success of your company. And they found that all of the things that would make a major contribution were on the list under the hard things to do. All the fun things, all the easy things, all the enjoyable things seldom make any kind of a contribution. Every time you stay at a key job until it is finished, you feel like a winner. You get a burst of energy, satisfaction, and self-esteem. So practice single-handling your tasks. Once you put them up, don't put them down until you're finished.